Today we're here alongside the Swamp Rabbit Trail in a food garden. And with me today is Reece Lyerly, who is the Director of Gardening for Good, and this is Gardening for Good's Teaching Garden. Reece, tell me, what is Gardening for Good?
Thanks, Cory. So Gardening for Good is a network and resource center for community gardens in Greenville County. And we support a network of about 80 different gardens all across Greenville. They're at churches, schools, neighborhoods, businesses. And what we try to do is provide them with the resources that they need to be successful.
Reece, that's great. And what strikes me there is that you said 80 community gardens. Are there really 80 community gardens in Greenville County?
Yeah, so we've actually been tracking the community gardens here in Greenville since 2011. And we started originally about 35 to 40, and that number's doubled just in the past 3 years. So people in Greenville seem to be really excited about gardening, and we hope that Gardening for Good is one of the reasons why they're able to get started.
Reece, we're standing in Gardening for Good's teaching garden, and it looks a little different to me than the average backyard garden in South Carolina. So what is a teaching garden, and how do you use it?
Yeah, Cory, so this is our second growing season here in the teaching garden. And what we found is that as we were trying to teach people in our network about how to grow, it's sort of hard to communicate things about irrigation and compost and sustainable practices just using PowerPoint presentations. And so we really want to have a space where we can invite community members into host classes, trainings, volunteer days to teach them about what we can grow here in South Carolina.
Great, and this is a kind of unusual mix of crops here. I see you have potatoes that are just about ready to dig, and I want to look at those in a little while. But also you have soybeans in your garden. Most of the people think of that as a field crop. Why do you have soybeans here? Yeah,
so we chose to grow the soybeans really just to sort of diversify what we could grow. And also it's just another fun, easy, low maintenance plant that we could add to our garden.
And these, I think, are the vegetable soybeans?
Yes, these are the vegetable ones. We're almost ready. They're filling in the pods, so we're almost ready to start harvesting those.
For those sushi lovers out there, they might recognize these as edamame, which I call an upscale boiled peanut. But speaking of peanuts, you also have some peanuts here, and we don't see a lot of those, particularly in the upstate, so that's an interesting crop.
Yes, this is our second season growing peanuts. It's a really fun crop to talk about, especially with kids. A lot of people enjoy peanuts, but probably have never seen it grown before. We also like it because after it grows up to a good size like it is now, it's sort of self-mulching, not a lot of maintenance, and pretty easy to grow.
Yep, and who doesn't like good peanuts?
Who does not like good peanuts, exactly.
I also see some very nice looking butternut squash, one of the great winter squashes that we can grow in South Carolina, and sweet potatoes, those are great crops because they store for a long time, right?
Yeah, exactly. One of the things we liked about these as well is during the summers, most often the hardest time to get people out into the garden. It's hot, it's sunny a lot, and so we're trying to grow things that are also, grow well during the summer, but thinking about the fall harvest as well. So we're standing in beds that used to be our garlic beds. We were able to start our butternut squash before we had harvested that and then allow it to take over like you see now.
Very neat. And probably the most unusual thing I see out here is ginger. Is this edible ginger, and can we grow it in South Carolina?
Yeah, it is edible ginger, and I was inspired by some friends last summer that grew a few beds of ginger, so I wanted to try it out myself. Really, this is just an experimental bed, something to play around with. We can grow it. Hopefully we won't have an early frost this year, and we should get a pretty good crop of fresh ginger that we can enjoy.
I'm really looking forward to that. I hope it works out well for you.
Me too.
And there's also several fruits, different fruit crops in the garden. You have strawberries as kind of a perimeter around your fence, but also I saw some kiwi and raspberries.
Yeah, so we have strawberry along our fence line. We have that because the Swamp Rabbit Trail is right next to our garden. So maybe if you're on your bike, grab a strawberry or two. We also wanted to try out hardy kiwi. We have some females behind us and males over to the side. Really just as a way to diversify what we're growing and teach people about the fruits that can be grown in South Carolina.
Yeah, those are really neat plants to grow. Well, obviously a garden of this size takes a fair amount of labor to maintain it and keep it looking this good. I'm sure you don't do all the work by yourself.
Not at all, Cory. We have a faithful group of volunteers who come out and work with us. Since this is a teaching garden, we want as many people as possible coming out here. We do weekly volunteer days and also these workshops that I was telling you about. And really our goal here is that it, like I said, is a platform. So a place where interested gardeners can come, get their hands dirty, figure out what we're doing, learn some of the practices that we have, and hopefully be inspired to take it back home.
Well, if somebody wanted to volunteer with you, do they need to bring their own tools?
No, they don't. So we actually have a tool shed here on the property that we're really proud of. Not just because we have tools that we can use, but we're actually working on a tool library. So a bank of tools that we can rent out to the community gardens that are in Greenville that they can use for volunteer days, projects they may have around the garden, things like that. So hopefully relieving some of the burden of providing tools that you need in the garden.
Reece, we've really enjoyed our visit out here today, and I would encourage anybody when they're in the Greenville area to stop by and visit the teaching garden of Gardening for Good. And I know some people want to get in touch with you. They may have a community garden and they'd like some help with, or maybe they just want to volunteer in an established community garden. How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the best way is to visit our website. It is ggardeningforgood.com. The extra G is for Greenville. And on the website we have information about starting a community garden, as well as all of our volunteer days for the rest of the year, and also individual garden pages of the community gardens that we have here in Greenville. So if you are local and you want to get involved, that's the best way to find out what we have and say that you're not in Greenville. It's still a good way to see photos of other community gardens and maybe get some ideas for what you can do.
Well, Reece, I really enjoy getting to work with you from time to time and visiting the teaching garden whenever I get a chance. We really appreciate all that you do for the Greenville area and the community gardening movement.
Thanks, Cory. We appreciate you too.